Good evening. How is
Hello.
everybody doing?
I'm all right. It's been a long couple weeks, but we're all right. We're
It
hanging
has
in
been a
there.
crazy few weeks.
I might actually get caught up from being on the road and traveling
What,
tomorrow
right
afternoon.
right
I
before you
might.
leave to go on another trip?
No. I might be able to leave Friday afternoon with nothing left in my inbox. So
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Only took you like
a week,
a week to catch up. That's
right?
not bad considering how long you've been gone.
Yeah.
But
Of
you
course.
were working while you were gone.
Yeah, just putting out fires. But
Well, somebody's got to do it.
so, Rip had another plan for tonight's show, but he's taking some new meds, not feeling the best, not going to be able to join us tonight. So we flip flopped this over to a Flock Talk Q&A.
Yep.
Um, and sorry, but I'm sure we'll still have fun. It'll be all right. So,
Yeah. I mean, Rip planned on being here with us.
well,
And based on the tone of his texting, I could tell that he was pretty upset,
yeah.
at least at how the medicine was doing him.
Uh-huh.
So,
He'll be all right in a little while. So,
but
anyway,
yeah.
so what's the new hot topics out there? What are you seeing? Questions asked and what's going
Jeff,
on?
look, I'm going to tell you, it's the sad thing, the part that almost makes me feel like a failure is the fact that it's a lot of the same stuff.
Look, it's reoccurring. Every time you hatch out a new group of poultry keepers, okay,
I like how you said that.
yeah, pun intended, they don't go research. They just start asking questions from
Hmm.
where they are, right? And they don't always ask in the right forums. They don't ask the right people. You know, um, as we all know, there's a lot of misinformation
No.
on Google. Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, what about
Even
the
funnier,
wonderful
even
chicken
funnier.
groups?
Well, oh, they're horrible. But so I've actually had three people so far since Chat GPT got started, right,
Yeah.
and turned it loose on the world, right. And people went
Hmm.
in and they typed in their question, and they're so excited. They come back to me with what Chat GPT said about chickens, right,
I
and
love it.
feeding chickens, and I'm like, wrong. What do you mean wrong? I just paid for Chat GPT something or other, LGBTQ, whatever. I don't know what. I don't even know the initials, right? But they paid for something, um, to get that AI answer, and it's like wrong. So anyway, so now we
So
have a new layer of misinformation.
I will say that if you pay for the Chat GPT and you create a project and upload a ridiculous amount of factual information to that project, you can have it search just that. But, you kind of got to
Look,
put real information in there first.
I don't know anything about how to use it. I fiddled around with like AI pictures, telling it what I want. I got no satisfaction out of that. So I just moved on down the road, right?
Man, you could put in some stuff for AI pictures and get some creepy stuff out.
I know. I know.
We got a question right here.
Yeah.
How worried are you about avian flu this year? Is it
I,
getting worse?
it's not getting any worse. It just, it's going to move around the country, and there's going to be hot spots here, there, and, other places. Um, but it typically is always going to be worse in the migratory bird flyway. Okay, so we're coming up March, April. The migratory birds are going to start working up through. It seems to, from what we're seeing, it's not all migratory birds. It seems to be the duck and geese migration that it's coming with. Okay, so usually along each coastline, major waterways like close to the Mississippi River any of the major tributaries off of that, Ohio River, Missouri River, etc., seem to be the hotter spots. Like Iowa gets it, Minnesota gets it, California, Washington, Oregon, up that corridor, East Coast gets hit pretty hard. I don't think it's going to be any worse than previous years. Um, it actually seems like the regulatory people are reporting it, but they're not as kind of crazy precautious as they were 5 years ago. So they seem to be kind of letting their guard down. I think they understand that it's really out of their control and it's going to do what it's going to do. Um, here's the thing.
That's like one of those things where really all you can do is feed your birds the best you can feed them with the most vitamins that you can without overdoing it and hope for the best, right?
Okay. So I haven't, even though our state reports it and I'm on a list, it gets that email. I don't always read it, don't always have time. So, but still, from what I've heard, what I've seen, what I've read, it's not majorly affecting smaller flocks, smaller farms. You know, um,
Right.
unfortunately, if you're under 100,000 birds, or if you're under, I think if you're under 100,000 birds, for sure, if you're under 20,000 birds, you're considered a backyard flock or a hobby flock, right?
Yep.
So, you know what?
It's
Um,
20 in Alabama.
well, there's a whole lot of farms that fall in that category, and
Oh,
they don't seem to be the ones getting the big hit, right? It's like super growers like Cal Maine, the U.S.'s largest egg supplier, right? They get hammered with it, um, you know. But I don't hear that many smaller flocks like folks listening here, right? That are having a major issue with it. Not with the high path. We do see some incidents with low path. Um, not a lot, still not a lot, you know, but we do see some low path, and that's more like you'll just see the head shaking. They don't necessarily have to die. Egg production quits, all of a sudden, pretty quick over like a week or so. But like you said, Kelly's question is, if your feed is up to snuff, how much do you really have to worry about it? And look, I can't say this on a public forum, but I'm going to. He's right. If your feed is everything it should be, right? I mean, if you're feeding a truly premium feed, vitamins are up to their levels and everything else, it's a much less worrisome thing, um, versus just feeding a commercial feed off the shelf from Tractor Supply. I don't want to keep picking on Tractor Supply, but Rural King, Tractor
well, I
Supply,
mean
whatever.
that's like the only Rural King and Tractor Supply is your biggest
Right.
box stores that sell that stuff. I mean, we're
But
not
there's
picking on
other,
them.
there's others out there, right? I mean, you can buy
I ordered a bunch of stuff
Nutrien or
from them
whatever.
today.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just don't really get that worried about it.
Mm-mm.
One of my larger producers that had almost 40,000 birds, still considered a backyard flock in California. Um, he's the only one that I've had on my commercial-ish type of poultry work
Yeah.
that's had the issue, right? So,
Well, and I mean, a lot of times, like Kelly says, if your feed's up to snuff and it does become an issue and your birds survive, then suddenly you have a flock that has built up an immune to it.
it's build immunity to what it's had for that, for the virus. Look, the virus is changing.
I mean,
Um,
it's just like people flu.
yeah,
It
but
changes every year.
the more we throw antibiotics at it and antivirals and all this other stuff, right, the stronger it gets, right? And every time the birds
Hmm.
migrate to the polar regions, you know, for the summer, it gets a chance to mutate to something else. Or, change, become stronger, more virulent, whatever. So we're not going to beat it. The best thing you can do is just feed your birds like crazy, the best stuff you can feed them, right? Don't be cutting corners.
Yeah, don't do that. James says, I've already started hatching. Yeah. With one hatch very successful, 100% rate, trial run, 12 eggs. But he did have one that had twisted beak, missing an eye. What would that one's survival rate have been? Hopefully 0% because you cold it. Because twisted beak is something that you pretty much have to spoon feed them all their life. They're never going to be able to eat normal. They're never going to be able to do anything. Like that's something that nobody can correct. And missing an eye, I feel like when that chicken gets in a grow out stage, missing an eye and having a twisted beak, the other chickens are going to cull it for you. That's my thoughts.
It's always going to struggle and be behind. Can you keep it alive? Yeah, you can nurse it along. I've heard of very rare cases where the twisted beak will straighten itself out. If it's cross beak or twisted like that, it does happen. But
I
there's
mean, everything is
definitely
possible.
there's something definitely shallow in the gene pool. For that particular chick,
Yeah.
um, you probably don't want to for sure carry the genes forward. Whatever it would be, but yeah, the survival rate in that I would say would be less than 1 in 100, maybe 1 in 1,000.
Yeah. I mean, that's, like I said, that's probably one of those birds that you would have to, I've seen people putting stuff in big syringes to feed them and things like that. But
Yeah, that
I
could
mean,
happen.
that's,
Some
I
people
don't,
go to that extreme.
I don't really know how good of a life that bird's going to live.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what else? What else have you seen?
I don't know. We're on the verge of breeding season. I mean, mating. A lot of people are starting to think about mating, breeding. Some have already started, like James, right?
Yeah.
And
I got
uh,
an incubator full right now.
yeah,
Well,
you're doing
kind of
it.
full.
Sue. Sue's already hatched some out, right? And so we're there. I don't know if everybody was ready for it or if it just happened. So we'll see.
Well, so mine, I use your layer ration on my breasts, especially because that's what they are. They're layer chickens,
Hmm.
and I made a post, I believe yesterday. I swapped them over to the breeder feed because they're laying like crazy, and I put in Buford, Ricky, Bobby, and Rufus as three beautiful breast roosters, white combs, deep breast. They met my criteria for growing. I put them in there, and well, I'll just say that I'm pretty sure the eggs were fertile real quick because they have been in cages by themselves where they
Well,
could only hear the hens.
oh, they couldn't see him. All right. So you
Mm-mm.
actually did it right and you did the separation thing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
even if you go the step further where they can't see or hear the hands, okay? Yeah. When you
Oh,
put
I
them in
wanted
the
them to be
pen,
hungry.
oh yeah. I wish I could get more people to do that. They will not separate their cockerels or their males, right, for 45 to 60 days prior to. Okay, people don't really even think about it. Like you feed the males less, right, and you get some weight off of them. You lean them down a little bit. So when you put them in there, they're very capable and willing, right? And
Yeah,
so
definitely will.
But if you thin them down a little bit, right, and they just if they don't have internal fat, they can make more sperm. So
Yeah.
you're just helping yourself out. But
So typically for me, I'll leave them all together once breeding season starts. And then when the molt hits, I get the males out because I don't want them messing with the females while they're molting because they're already stressed, they're already miserable. And, they're, they don't want the roosters messing with them.
mhm,
So I separate them
yeah,
and they get in the pen. Sometimes it's 10 feet away, sometimes it's the other side of the yard because if I've had some that have really caught my eye hatch out that are like that cockerel age, I will put them in and amongst the A team. And as time goes, I'm looking. And if one, sometimes I the goal is to hatch out something better than what I had. And when I have that, you know, he gets identified and moved ahead. And one of them three got to figure it out because I put three males in with 18 to 20 hens, and I have really good fertility.
I'm telling you now, for heavier breeds like the breast,
Hmm.
that's a tight number. And I hear people running around talking about 10 hands, 12 hands, whatever. The heavier the breed, the fewer
Hmm.
the hands. Okay, that's just a simple rule of thumb. So
Well,
seven
that's
to
and
one,
that's why I have three in there because it's
yeah,
like
7 to
six to
one is
seven to
about as
one.
far as I'd want to go. Okay,
Yeah.
so um, I don't think the heavier breeds can handle 10 plus. I mean, they can, but how good is that hatch rate going to be, right? So,
Well, so at one point in time, I had about 50 ISA browns or highlines or whatever you want to call the commercial red. And I had some regular standard reds. And I put three in there with that because that's about all that would go because them suckers they got crazy. And the hatchability, the hatch rate was not as high. It was high 70s, low 80s, nowhere near 90s plus, 95 plus. But so I mean, it can, but like you said, if you're at that point, I was hatching because I had just dropped a grand on an incubator, my first cabinet incubator, and my goal was to appease all those chick people as fast as I could to pay my American Express card back. And then in just a couple months, $5 chicks paid them back.
all right, Melissa has a question. She bred chickens. I breed chickens and I do not vaccinate. I'm also going to purchase a new line and have the option of vaccinated for Merrick's to vaccinate them for Merrick's. What would you do? Can vaccinated, unvaccinated, can you have both? And Melissa, you should not do that. Okay.
Mm,
Um, Especially a vaccine that is a modified live or a live vaccine, because they will be carriers of that virus. And if they're stressed or certain times, in their life, they're going to be shedders. So,
mhm.
they either all need to be vaccinated or all unvaccinated, and you need to decide. Okay. So, I mean, you open a Pandora's box because you're purchasing a new line. You don't know if that flock has Merrick's hidden in it or not, or how prevalent it is. I get it. It's a really tough question. Um, and I mean, I'm a non-vaccinated kind of person, But when it comes to chickens and Merrick's, hey man, I I, I get nervous when a flock has not been properly vaccinated. Now look, if they're only talking about day old vaccination and no booster, then don't bother. So I'm experimenting with, got a friend, we're going to go to 3 Merrick's vaccines. You got to definitely have the day old vaccine. You have to have the 14-day booster. And we're looking at doing another 28-day booster to see if we can get it. So they're old statistics, but the statistics that I heard in my earlier poultry, career was the first vaccination is about 60% effective, right? And that's why you have the booster, which then brings it up to about 80, 85% effective. And we're going to see if doing the third vaccination on 28 days, if we can get it up into the 90s. Okay. Merrick's is brutal, is a brutal virus, and it's really hard to manage. Um, but once you've got it, right? And then you definitely have to manage it with higher levels of nutrition. So hopefully that answers your question. I don't know if Carrie has anything he wants to add to what I said, but
I mean, I just always caution people not to do that because, the Merrick's vaccine is a live virus. And if you introduce that to your birds and they're stressed, anything could happen. You got a problem. And you say, well, my birds aren't stressed, but, you know, especially in Alabama, if you have bipolar weather like what we have and it's 80 one day and 40 the next, that'll stress them out. So I wouldn't risk it. Now, birds can live with Merrick's, but you're always going to have to watch where you go, whose house you go to, and stay away from their chickens if you've been around your chickens, or you're going to transfer it to them.
yeah, I had this conversation today, right? Somebody was, and it was an American game fowl breeder, up in Tennessee.
Hmm.
And, here's the thing, right? Is if you go somewhere where there was other chickens, like visiting another farm, you need to be really careful who visits your farm. Um, but you don't, you should almost take an extra set of clothes, right? So you go to a friend's place to see their birds, right? When you're done, stop at a rest area somewhere, get those clothes, those shoes, whatever, put them in like a Rubbermaid tote, storage tote, you know, take them home, wash them,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Change your clothes before you ever, you know, I would sooner see you do it before you even get to your property. Um, that's just me. Or, you should even have a set of coveralls that you purposely use when you're visiting, other poultry farms. It's like,
So I buy disposable Tyvek suits. You can get them on Amazon for like, I think I paid $20 for like four of them. Comes hood, long sleeve, long leg, and I put them on, stick my feet in my boots. Those boots only go one place, and I have stuck them in 5 gallon bucket of bleach that I have just for that. And every so often, I replace the bleach because it off gases and loses its strength. Or I will put um, Tyvek's booties on. They're not that expensive either.
they're not. Again,
You
you can
know,
get plastic booties, you can get Tyvek booties, you can get, there's all kinds of stuff out there.
when you
But
consider, to me, when you consider spending $10 on a Tyvek suit and a pair of booties and tossing it versus getting one of your birds or most of your birds sick, that's nothing.
all right, so RS, So does Merrick stay in the soil? No, Merrick's actually requires a host.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of a host, a living body, um, it's less than 14 days. It's either 7 or 10 days without a host. Right? So it does not stay in the soil. Um, and now I don't know if they've confirmed like rats and rodents being carriers. I haven't heard that they have, so I'm not sure exactly what type of host it needs outside of poultry. I know all poultry are susceptible to it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else. I don't know what else may.
Here's another one. How long should a new bird be kept in quarantine?
Minimum 30 days. I mean, minimum 30 days. And during that 30 days, you need to stress the bird. And I'm talking serious stress. Like, okay, so the first week you feed them up, get them over on your feed, do whatever you can to make them, happy in their new quarantine. But
Mm-hmm.
during that time, um, like bring up a barking dog, hose them down with a garden hose and get them soaking wet. Something that, 2 or 3 stress events that are really stressful for the bird. That's when, so viruses hide deep, you know, deep inside the tissues and the bone of the animal.
Mm-hmm.
They wait for the animal to show signs of stress, right? And that's when they'll emerge and you'll start to see things. Okay. So you've got to, if you really want to know if it's a clean bird, you've got to stress it. I mean, you got to stress it terribly, right?
So one of the things that I've done is, you know how you can take a metal sign, one of the flimsy ones, and shake it. It kind of sounds like thunder.
Yeah.
I've used that. I do have dogs, and my quarantine pen that I have is the bottom of it's about 4 feet off the ground, maybe 3.5, somewhere in there, waist high, because that's what I measured it with when I built it. And it's got like a 2 foot up and 6 feet long. I think it's a small pen, but I don't bring hardly ever many birds home, and I'll put it in there. And like you said, I get it on my feed for a week, let the bird basically get comfortable, and then I'll in that process, the dogs go over there and we'll check it out like crazy. And for a bird that's never been around dogs that are 150 pounds, that could be stressful. I'll use the sign. I hit them with a hose pipe. Sometimes I'll, just mess with them, just just to make sure nothing's going to come out.
All right. So, question Kellyanne said, if you see bloody poop, does it always mean coccidia? Well, all right. So now let's clarify bloody poop. And what we're looking for is the bright red, like you dropped blood on the manure. And and back we did, poultry manure. We went through a whole bunch of slides talking. So there's a past issue. There's a past episode where we specifically talked. We went through, manure with pictures and described what they were. But yes, 99% of the time, if you see a true bright red, blood red spot, or in the manure, it's a really good sign. It's pretty positive that it's coccidiosis. So the other gut ailments like necrotic enteritis and other digestive upsets will not give you blood in the manure. Pretty much only coccidia, because they're feeding on the gut wall and they're exposing the veins in the intestinal wall, um, to the digestive tract, and that's where the blood seepage. By the time you start seeing blood, you got a pretty big hole in the gut. So it's in the intestinal tract. So yeah, I mean that's a really safe assumption. At least 90% of the time, Otherwise the bird ate something sharp, right? And you've got some sort of internal damage. But and that's rare that that occurs, but it is it is a possibility. So,
Mm-hmm.
so you're talking about farm visits. I'm assuming, James, and I don't know how good your friend is, and I don't know how much they like you, but if you like your chickens, um, having them on your yard, you know what? If they're a really good friend and they're that close and they come over frequently, go buy them a pair of boots that stays at your farm and a cheap pair of coveralls that stays at your farm. And when they come, they can put that stuff on. And when they leave, they can leave it right there. And
Yeah.
if they love
Or
you, they'll do
if
that.
they've been around enough already, chances are your
Yeah.
birds probably have everything theirs does, and theirs probably has everything you do.
Oh, yeah. And then, but like James probably doesn't bring new birds on his farm, but the neighbor might.
That's
The
true.
neighbor might be, he might be down at the poultry swap every Saturday. Ooh, I like this one. Ooh, I like this one. Ooh. So, you can't just make it that simple. I mean, you need to know your friend and you need to explain to them that you've got a huge investment on your yard or your farm, um, and you don't want to lose it. Don't want to lose him as a friend, but you also don't want to lose your chickens. So you need to
Right.
have that conversation.
Most definitely.
I don't know that ground squirrels can spread disease. I have not heard that. I know mice and rats do, um, and for sure mosquitoes because they carry fowl pox. But mostly the only thing that a mosquito will carry is actually fowl pox. Right? It can be wet or dry, but it can be a thing. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know about the ground squirrels. I I would doubt it, but it is possible.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, but they don't. The mice and rats tend to they like to travel to water, like if there's a stream or something like that, and they get around a lot more out in the wilderness, so to speak, in the wild.
Hmm.
So they have more exposure to those things, and but I don't know if they're carriers or not. I don't think so.
Let's see. Ingrid has a question. She says, "How essential is it to have a duck specific ration if you're keeping them with chickens? If the ration is properly formulated with poultry NutriBalancer in it, is there
Well,
enough niacin in there?"
there is, um, there is, and because I like to overdo vitamins and things
No.
like poultry NutriBalancer. Yeah, I way overshoot the mark, usually by 20-25%. So yes, when using poultry NutriBalancer, there is. When using some other brands of chicken feed, you need to verify that niacin level, right? So you may not have enough.
I mean, you can always add poultry NutriBalancer to your feed.
Yeah, just one more thing to add, but yeah, some people like adding things to the feed. Other people
And
would
see,
rather
that's
spend
the
time with their
thing.
chickens, right?
If you're one of those that likes to add stuff to your feed and mix stuff up, get you some poultry NutriBalancer.
I would rather just spend time with my chickens than not. Okay.
I understand.
Anyway, okay.
I mean, I've been there, done that. I would much rather pull the string on a bag and toss it in there than spend Saturday mixing up hundreds of pounds.
So
I
James
promise.
says ground squirrels, no, not a problem. Mice and rats are the worst, and they are huge carriers of different diseases.
Mice
Actually,
and rats are horrible, period.
I don't know that they carry Merrick's. They will carry things like fowl cholera. Um, to my knowledge, they can carry CRD, chronic respiratory distress. I think they can carry coryza. They can be carriers. Actually, they're horrible carriers for mites and lice, right? So they'll bring in mites and lice out of the wild into your barn. So
Mm-hmm.
this is why you don't free choice feed and you don't spill feed on the ground. Okay. So if there's no feed for them to eat, they're not a problem. But if you're a
Yeah.
sloppy housekeeper and you spill your feed and you leave your feed bags open, things like that. I mean, I stored mine in a metal trash can that they couldn't get in. So that's just me. I wasn't taking the chance.
Well, and see, that's another thing I've seen people say: don't store your feed in metal trash cans because the galvanized can kill your birds.
Well, that's horse pucky. So, the salt in the feed, the little bit of salt in the feed will eventually cause corrosion in the newer trash cans because they're hot dip galvanized. They're not, you know, it's not applied the same way as the old stuff was. Um, it'll eventually rot out the can, but the slow leaching of the zinc in the galvanizing process, it's not going to leach out there fast enough. And the amazingly, like the toxicity level for zinc in feed is huge. Okay, we're already putting zinc in the feed. A good feed will be 80 parts per million to 100 to
Mm-hmm.
100 parts per million. You can take for specialty birds, especially for reproduction purposes. Zinc is really important. So you can run that zinc up to 150, no problem. You zinc at 500 or even 1,000 parts per million. You're talking 1,000 parts per million before you're going to start seeing toxicity. People are just guessing at stuff and they're making crap up out there. They didn't do any research. They heard somebody say it. They parroted it on to somebody to the next person, and the misinformation. You know, there we go. Right?
When I was a kid, my granddaddy had chicken feed. Every time he opened a bag, he dumped it in one of those galvanized trash cans all my life. And, the way I've always looked at it, if you're using enough chicken feed that you have to store it in a can like that, I mean, you can only put like 150 pounds worth in there before you fill it up. So,
I got
you
the 40
know,
gallon. I got the
just use
40.
it all.
I got the 35 40 gallon can. Right?
Yeah, just
Galvanized can.
use it all and then
Yeah,
fill it back up.
that's all you
It
can
won't
get.
be in there long enough to leach out.
Well, I can get 225 pounds in a 35-gallon metal trash can. Right?
I've got some 30 or 35-gallon plastic drums with the lid and the metal snap ring. I really like those. They work well, but
Yeah.
again, it's not gonna happen like that. Here's somebody that keeps theirs in an old deep freeze. Good
Oh,
idea, but I would drill some holes in it so it doesn't sweat.
now wait a minute. And John said something about that too, right? That he don't keep it in there because it causes molded feed.
Hmm.
Okay. If your feed is stable, okay, and good, really good feed, then it. I mean, unless you're setting it in the sun, direct sun, like it's got to get really hot for
Hmm.
those grains to sweat out. Okay. Your feed, after they've added the vitamins, the minerals, the calcium, and all the other stuff, the oyster shell and the grit, all those good things that should be in your feed, okay, your grain moisture is down to about that mix, that feed mix moisture should be around 10 or 11%. You would have to be almost baking it. Like that can has to sit in direct sunlight in Alabama in July for it to sweat out. If
Yep.
your feed, if your feed is sweating out, okay, and causing mold, and it didn't hit all of those parameters I just talked about, then your feed company, and this happens, people, so listen carefully. They know that they can add water back to feed up to a certain percentage without causing an issue. So instead of being 10 or 11, your feed could be 13 or 14. You're paying for 2 to 3% of water added in your feed. This happens.
No way.
This happens. This happens all the time, right?
The moisture
Yeah.
is making it to where they don't have to give you as much feed because it goes by weight.
I mean, I never had a mold problem in my cans, right? In my galvanized cans. Just me. So I'd be asking the feed company, hey, you are you selling me water?
They're gonna be like, "What?"
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing. And I mean, those are the conditions that I have had the problem in is July and August. You know, I use those vault things that you
Mhm.
can buy that have really,
Then you
you
put a
know,
vent. I thought you
they
put a
seal
vent
it.
on them. I
Put
thought
a
you were
vent
buying
on.
vents. Yeah.
I
I thought
did.
you were putting a one way vent.
And I'm gonna share the link to the one that I use on Amazon.
Okay.
And they're small. It's a called a breather plug for moisture and pressure control. It's got the venting screw. It's designed for electrical enclosures, but the and the metal containers that I keep feed in, I bought quite a few of these and put them in there.
Okay.
Problem stopped.
So Kellyanne says she ferments her feed with apple cider vinegar, whole wheat, whole barley, whole corn, whole oats, soy meal, turmeric, red pepper flakes, black oil, sunflowers. She doesn't ferment the black oil sunflower. So, Kellyanne, how long are you soaking it for? And the reason I asked, and I'll clarify this before she even answers. Okay. So, not much fermentation goes on in 24-hour soak. Okay. You're just basically making it wet, right? And you're just barely starting something to happen.
Right.
So 3 days is referred to as tempering. Okay. So a 3 day soak, and you will get some fermentation going on. You'll actually start to get some bubbling and some off gassing. And then 7 days is considered a fermentation process. Okay. So it's fine. It doesn't really matter which one. Just be really careful that you keep it in a sanitary place, like clean place, and also always keep cheesecloth, old pillowcase, something covering the buckets that you're doing the fermentation or the soaking. You do not want, a stray bacteria that could be floating in the air to get into your fermentation buckets and start a mold that you didn't want. Okay, and it happens.
Yeah.
I'll help 3 to 5 people a year doing fermentation. Where they've actually poisoned their birds because it was not done in a clean, sterile environment. So just be careful. Um, I hope you're adding other nutrients like some calcium, some phosphorus, some vitamins, and things like that to the mix once you're done soaking and or fermenting it, because they're going to need a little bit more than just that to be really, really healthy.
Yep. But I mean, if you're people that are doing it and they're just letting their feed soak overnight, you're just getting extra moisture to your birds. And to be honest, when it's really, really cold, birds, I know one of my friends, Dwayne, what he does is he'll actually get like a boiling pot, like you would do an outside shrimp boil or something like that with, get the water boiling, put grains in it that he's going to mix in with his feed and boil the grains to, I mean, I guess start to cook them. But he gets the grains hot, then he throws them in his mixer to mix in with his feed, and his birds love it. But it's just like giving them warm water.
Yeah,
And it'd be just
especially in
like
the
us drinking
wintertime.
coffee when it's cold.
Yeah, they're going to like it in the wintertime. So Kellyanne goes for 48 hours, which is a good it's a really good time frame. I'm all in for that.
Mm-hmm.
She feeds the shells back to the chickens with worms. I don't know what kind of worms. I'm assuming mealworms, but I don't know. And Cheerios for treats. Okay, sounds like fun. Hey, Kellyanne, if you want to try a
Cheerios.
different treat, chickens really love popcorn. You don't have to put any butter or salt on it. It's an excellent treat for chickens. You can use it as a training aid if you want them to follow you around by just dribbling out a piece of popcorn every now and then as you walk across the yard. So, just if you want something else as a treat. So,
That's pretty cool.
yeah. So James, he mixes his own, but he gets the ingredients from the state feed co-op. Last year, the heat took its toll on the flock. Yep. So he started slowly rebuilding. So 50 pounds wasn't being used as fast as like that. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
But so James, just think about this for a second. So most of the grains are harvested August, September, October. Okay. So when they first harvest them, they're all going to be at that 15% moisture. Okay. When they're going in. So if you can load up on previous year grains until those get a chance, like if you can get by 6 months worth at a time and find a way to store them in July and keep them until those grains, once they've been in storage and had fans running on them, they'll be a lot more stable come, December, January. So that harvest window, depending on if you're getting new crop or old crop, is not going to be the same, right? So you just may want to skip that new harvest corn until it really gets a chance to cure out and dry down a little bit further to that 13% mark. But they harvest at 15, 15 and a half, sometimes even 16, and then they'll put it in dryers and fans. And it's still, they'll put it in a bin at 14 and a half or 15. So it still has moisture that it wants to lose before it's stable. Just, you know, I'm full of useless information. Just ask anybody. So anyway, yeah. So she does mealworms, the big ones, the super worms, right? But try the popcorn. Popcorn safer.
Yeah, I'm going to get some catawba worms.
Do they eat them?
Well, I hope not, because I've got some areas where I've had a lot of pins, and I'm trying to like refresh the dirt. And so I know that catawba worms will process the manure. And so I'm going to put them in it and keep the other chickens away to process it. And I'm going to experiment with some raised pens for breeding purposes and for young chicks to be in outside.
Well, remind
And
me tomorrow to send you the pictures of Google's rooftop pens. I think you'll love them. Kellyanne said larva, not large. So she's doing the larva worms,
yeah,
so they're a little bit smaller. Yeah,
but yeah,
you're
I
right.
want to do that, and I'll have the worms underneath it,
Who
and
doesn't love
they'll
popcorn?
process
Yeah,
it.
but then you're going to put the birds on top again, or what are you thinking?
So the birds will be on top, but it'll be raised, like they won't actually be in the dirt.
All right. So James says yes, they love them. So you're going to have to find a different one, or you're going to have to keep the chickens away.
Yep, I'm gonna have to keep them away because the catawbas will process the manure, and with it being processed, that keeps the smell down, keeps the wife happy. Because I don't really have a problem except for when we get a ridiculous amount of rain, and I'll go line the place again, but it still smells for a day or two, and she
Um,
don't
I don't,
like it.
I don't know if you can get it or not, but if you can get your hands on a product known as soft rock phosphate, okay, and it's a mined product from North Florida. Soft rock phosphate. It's a
Hmm.
colloidal clay that has a good phosphorus level.
Mm-hmm.
If you sprinkle that on raw manure, it will kill the smell immediately.
What is that?
Soft rock phosphate. It comes from a company called Manco, Manko. Okay, they have their own mine down in Florida. They don't mine it all the time. See if you can figure out how to get your hands on some of that. It looks and spreads like lime. It's really fine pulverized powder.
Yeah.
It's you spread that on, and you can even put it in there while the birds are in there, right? So if things are getting a little bit away from you,
Well, yeah, because I mean they need phosphorus too. So if they eat
well, they
some,
don't eat it, but it really sweetens up your soil. But it captures all the ammonia smell and
yeah,
most of the stink. So you'll like it.
I gotta try that out. See if I can get some.
Yeah. See if you can get your hands on some.
Let's see. What's the best stuff to use to create dust bath?
All right. Only one of us clicking at a time. All right.
All right.
Kellyanne, my favorite. My birds loved. We used wood and coal ash. Okay. And just ashes from a wood burning stove or a coal burning stove. And so, yeah.
Man, that's what I do with my ashes. In the in the wintertime, I'll get them out of the fireplace, obviously, and I'll put them outside for a while.
Store them up in those metal trash cans, until you need
Yeah.
them. So you burn all winter. Find a place you can keep them dry. And my hens loved them, right? I had a friend who burned coal.
And it's good for it.
Right.
It's good for them.
Well, it's high in sulfur. It was interesting because when I would freshen up the dust bath, then actually they'd all run up and eat some, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'd all eat some of it, and then of course then the boss hen, she gets in the spa first, right? And then after she's done, they go right down through the pecking order. But there's nothing more hilarious than watching your hen come out of an ash dust bath. They have this ghostly look because of the ash that's still on the feathers, but they look so satisfied when they're done. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So if you have ashes, just straight ashes, right? And what I found to work the best is like those blue 55-gallon barrels. You cut them off so they're about 14 inches tall, and you keep that half full of ash all the time,
mm-hmm.
and they'll figure it out, right? It'll take it a couple days. They'll figure it out, and then once they figure it out, I don't know if your neighbor's going to make enough ash to keep you supplied for the year or not. But hey,
Tires work good too.
jeez, tires. There must be a
Well
lot of free tires in Alabama or something. I don't know, but
well, when you daggum go get a new set, they charge you a disposal fee.
oh, is that so? You stockpile them in the back 40 somewhere where nobody can
So,
see them.
you
All
get
right,
you a few extras
they do, but they
and
don't because the ash is going to go out into the tire where the bird can't really use it. So you're going to waste a bunch.
I
With the
mean,
barrel, you don't waste any. Okay.
but hey, sometimes it's easier to find an old tire than it is a barrel.
Okay. All right. I mean, you can also dig a hole in the ground and create a permanent dust bath that never moves.
My chickens did that. So in the wintertime, my tractors, I line them up and I don't move them a whole lot in the wintertime.
All right. Explain
And
tractors because I'm sure you just lost somebody. They,
okay, chicken
they
tractor.
probably think you have an antique collection of old tractors that you line up for winter. So,
Oh man, that would be awesome. But no. Um I have chicken tractors, Alumacoops. And in the summertime I'll move them around. I move one back and forth across the front yard. Just because it keeps my grass really green. But I'll put them in a certain spot with the solid back in the direction that the wind blows from. And I'll go in there and I'll put in stall pellets wood shavings, lime, stall pellets, and peat moss to build them their environment. And they wallowed out a hole that's probably 6, 8 inches. And I had some wood ash and I went and threw it in there. And you would have thought that I just gave a little kid one of those kiddie pools in the wintertime on a hot day. Because one would get in there, and if it was in there too long, the others would be trying to hurry to get it out, yelling at it, even pecking at it sometimes to get them to move or jump in there with it. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so when you run out of ashes, here's the homemade mix for a dust bath. And I'm going to get scrutinized for this. I don't care. Okay. So you get you some peat moss from like we use for bedding for the chicks. You get you some peat moss. And so for a half a bale of peat moss, which, you won't need quite that much to create the dust bath. And throw 2 handfuls or so of diatomaceous earth in there, and about two handfuls of powdered sulfur. Mix that up a little bit. Call it a day. Makes an excellent dust bath. Okay. So, but there's people who are, oh no, not diatomaceous earth. It'll kill them. Okay.
I mean,
I've been working with diatomaceous earth for 30 years. Okay. And for a lot of years,
some people put it in their feed.
They should. But, for a good pile of those years when I was on the mixing line, cutting diatomaceous earth, dumping it into the mineral mixes, okay, I'm sure I have breathed in a lot of it. Okay. And I don't think it's what's going to kill me. I have not got these nasty silicosis and all this other stuff that they talk about. And so
You don't have feathers growing out from under your arm?
no.
That's a plus.
I don't have moss growing on my north side. I don't have a lot of things. So
When you
probably have less parasites.
when you're mixing DE in with your feed, what percentage should you shoot for?
1 to 2%.
So
Not
pretty much the same amount of lysine.
That's by weight. Okay, that's by weight. Okay, so it's the most you'd ever want to put is like 20 pounds per ton. So,
I mean, that would be 2%.
And nobody on here is dealing in tons. So, 1% is 1 pound for every 100 pounds of feed.
Yeah. Okay. But if you wanted just a good level number, 10, 15 pounds per ton would be
not everybody's,
no problem.
Nobody here is getting a ton of feed, right? So, to say a half a pound per 50 is a great idea, right? Or 1 pound per 100, right? You're the only person who's buying feed by the tons. Okay, I think in the audience or attending the show tonight. So it's.
Well, I can tell you, it's if you can go through a freshly milled ton in less than 45 days, then it'd be a great idea. Susie says, how much would you put in a 40-pound bag of feed? Half a pound?
How much what in a 40 and how much what in a what?
How much DE would you put in a 40-pound bag of feed?
Okay, so 1% is 0.4. That's about 6.5 ounces.
Make sure you mix it in good.
Yeah.
This one says, I sprinkle DE on the perches and in the nest box. Great. Keeps bugs down.
Yeah, I agree. And I need to get me a 50-pound bag, actually, and bring it home. I want to put it around the perimeter of the house, to keep the ants and other stuff from coming in once it warms up.
Yeah, I know where you can get it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be close enough that it's only about 25 bucks for a 50 pound bag, and a 50
Nope.
pound bag is huge, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
a
it's like
50-pound bag would be
two
enough for
two
you to
foot
put
wide, 2 foot wide, 4 foot long,
around your house, around
twice.
your storage building,
Yeah,
store it somewhere dry, do it again in a couple months.
yeah. But
Yeah,
insects,
that's a ton.
crawling insects hate
Hate it.
hate it. Um, it gets in their joints and their segments, and it's kind of like you grabbing a handful of glass, broken glass. It does the same principle, right? And so every time they move, it cuts into their joints and lacerates them. And yeah, works good. And that stuff's been used for like over 50, 60 years. I'd have to look and see when Permagard opened that mine and started selling it.
Hmm.
Funny thing is, people talk about diatomaceous earth, and it gets a bad rep out there, by some tree huggers and whatever. But did you realize that Permagard sold to agriculture is a very small, or diatomaceous earth sold to agricultural uses is a very small amount. It's also used in pool filters, and here's the shocker, people. It's actually added to cosmetics and to toothpaste. It used to be the abrasive component, I think it still is, in many brands of toothpaste that have an abrasive in them for cleaning teeth. So it's food grade, right? I mean, the stuff's pretty pure, but you can make your own. If you took a little DE, a little baking soda, right? You can make your own toothpaste.
I mean, that's a lot of times when you say stuff like that and people are like, "Oh my god." But that's how it used to be made.
Yeah,
That like 50 years ago when people lived to be 110 or more, that's what they were doing.
you know, it, it's really not rocket science to make a good toothpaste, right? Just find a flavoring agent that you like, but a little bit of baking soda, a little bit of diatomaceous earth, and some stuff to make it pasty, so it'll stay on your toothbrush, and you're good to go. And why are we talking about toothpaste? And our hour is up, buddy.
I mean, you got to talking about it.
I know.
But I think that's to let people know that
It's
diatomaceous earth really
it's
is
safe.
safe.
It is.
I hope so because I have breathed in so much diatomaceous earth, phosphorus, um, copper sulfate, breeder supplement. I mean, I breathed in a lot of that stuff. And, this past week's the first time I've been sick in probably about a year, year and a half. Like, really, screw this. I'm going to the doctor sick. And I proudly went and waited for 4 hours. But we will end on that note. And we will see y'all in 2 weeks, where
Hey,
hopefully we will also have Rip in the house.
I
Y'all have
hope
a good
so.
night.
Good night.